everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Insights from the Couch. We are talking skin today with a fabulous dermatologist, Dr. Mary Alice Mina, and we're going to be getting into everything you need to know about sunscreen, holistic skincare, what treatments to get, what treatments not to get. Does putting estrogen on your face make a difference, especially for women at middle age? You know, what can we be doing to take care of our skin? So you're going to want to stay tuned for this one because we're asking Dr. Mina all the questions. But first, let me briefly introduce her. She's so impressive. Dr. Mina is a Harvard-trained dermatologist, international speaker, author, and host of The Skin Reel, a podcast ranked in the top 2.5% globally. She's a co-owner of Balcom and Mina Derm Surgery in Atlanta, Georgia, and a leading expert in procedural dermatology, skin health, and skin care. She has nearly 2 decades of clinical experience and is celebrated for her artistic eye, surgical precision, and ability to help patients feel radiant at every stage. Dr. Mina is also a sought-after speaker, and she's been featured in all kinds of media outlets, People Magazine, The Wall Street Journal, Glamour, and Huffington Post, to name a few. Welcome, Dr. Mina. We're so thrilled to have you today. So let's just jump right in and start off with, what can you tell us, Dr. Mina, about the hormonal changes that happen at this phase of life and how that affects the skin? Like, what are some of the most common issues you see with women at midlife as a dermatologist?
Gosh, see and have experience or am experiencing, right? So lots of things happen. A common issue is I used to have great skin, or someone never even really thought about their skin, and all of a sudden they look in the mirror and they feel like they've aged overnight. And they're like, what is happening? My skin is crepey. I have these wrinkles I never had before. The neck, people, I feel like that's one of the first areas people notice it. And I can relate. So yeah, the neck, and yeah, a jowling, that people feel like they're starting to get jowls. So they feel like, the word I hear a lot is, my face is falling. Things are just moving south. And so that's a big one. And then hair loss is another big one that I see during this period. And this can happen sooner than people realize. It can happen in your late 30s, early 40s. You can start seeing this even before you see the traditional signs of menopause, right? Like the hot flashes and brain fog and other things that women will experience. So in this sort of perimenopausal phase where your hormones are fluctuating, you can start to see these changes.
Okay, you just hit the nail on the head. My neck looks like E.T., like it's like all like banded. And I'm that person who I feel like I always had great skin my whole life. I don't wash my face. I didn't do anything. And all of a sudden my skin's getting really dry. My wrinkles are more pronounced. I have gels, the neck thing. It's really crazy. The face falling is the perfect descriptor.
And I feel like my brows, like I'm getting squintier and squintier. I'm like trying to open my eyes purposefully.
Well, I also think we are our toughest critics, right? Like, we are looking at ourselves, and then it's like the only thing we can see are our brows are so heavy, or my neck, or the banding, and so I think we can also just, it can almost paralyze us because we're not used to seeing these things. We're maybe used to looking a certain way, getting a certain attention or looks, or getting that sort of, you look good. And now you kind of reach the age where, like, oh, I'm not turning heads like I used to. I don't get the first drink when I'm at the bar anymore. And the sad thing is, I don't want to speak for you all, but I still feel like I'm 25. So then when I see these changes, I'm like, wait a minute, I don't look how I feel. And so that can be sometimes disheartening too.
I think that's it. It's jarring.
Yeah. It is jarring. And then we have also seen examples of women that get like hyper fixated on not aging.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've seen examples of people who just go like way too far with injectables or Botox. I mean, I see this in I have young clients that are spending so much money on like blood facials, like things that I'm just like, you're like 30 something and I don't know. I am a skin like minimalist. Like I heard from one of my like family friends when I was a kid that she like was just going to use sunscreen and a bar of Ivory soap. And I was like, ding, 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 me too. So I'm like on that weird end, but like, where is the sweet spot of not, of me and my Ivory soap and like the woman that's now looks like her face is a pillow because she's done so many injectables.
Yeah, it is so tricky. And I think as dermatologists, I have to be careful with this too, right? Because I have access to whatever I want, I can do. And it's a slippery slope that you don't become so fixated on one thing or one flaw, because then you fix that and then you find another. You're never satisfied. That's the thing. We always will find something else. So I think first and foremost, and this is where people like you come in, is we have to kind of do the work internally. Like we need to make sure we have confidence, we feel good about ourselves, like that we do the internal work of taking care of our mind and body. Because if you fixate like this syringe is going to fix my problems, this treatment is you're never going to be happy, right? And that's when you go down the slippery slope. So I think having a healthy attitude about aging, not everything is amazing, right? But what's the alternative, right? So I'd rather age than die young, right? Or die in my mid-40s. So it's important to not fixate so much on the negative, to have outlets that don't require you to stare at yourself and look at yourself and things that nourish your mind and body. And then you can come to me for the last 10 to 15%. If you want to, if you need to. And my mom is like you, Laura. She uses moisturizer and sunscreen. I've tried to get her a tretinoin product and I've offered my services to her and she wants nothing to do with it. And she's almost 70 and she looks great. You know, she looks 70, but she does look great and her skin looks great. So then, you know, you have the other extreme where people want to do everything, but it's a slippery slope, right? Because then you start not even looking like yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm in the middle, right? Like I'm okay with doing impactful things that will give me results or help me feel good. But I always want to look like myself, even if that means I do have some skin laxity or sagging or some wrinkles. I still want to be me. And that's okay at 50 or 60 to have some lines or some looser skin or heck at 40s, right? But I think everyone's different and everyone has to reach that point on their own. I can't tell someone. You have to figure it out.
So, and you are a big proponent of skin minimalism as well, right? And that less is more, finding that sweet spot for you.
Right.
So I'm not far beyond Laura. I use Eltrana, but that's the only thing a couple times a week. And even that, it's hard for me to get myself to use it as often as consistently. What's an ideal skincare routine? I mean, obviously, I know some degree it has to be customizable for the person and their issues, but what do you think is kind of that sweet spot for a woman at midlife?
First of all, when I say I'm a skin minimalist, sometimes people think, oh, you don't do any cosmetics. I'm like, no, I do cosmetics, but again, I do selective ones that are things that are beneficial for me, not just what my best friend got or what some beautiful celebrity got. And so making it work for me. And that's where I think sometimes people, they just hear, oh, the halo laser, I should get the halo laser, I should get this, I should get that. But skin minimalism doesn't mean doing nothing or aging completely natural unless you want it to be. But what I think we overdo it. We do too many things, and it's important that you're just doing the right things for you. So the bare minimum would be have a cleanser, a gentle cleanser you like, have a moisturizer, and have a sunscreen. If you do nothing else but sun protect, it will get you so far. And I can't believe we're still debating this with all the data and science. And even if you don't believe me, look at if you have some older friends or people and look at the ones who maybe spend more time indoors, and then look at the ones who have been out in the sun. And there's a clear difference. Or look at your stomach versus the skin on the top of your arms, right? That's That's sun damage over the years, sun exposed versus sun protected. So if you truly want to be a minimalist, I'd say, Laura, more power to you. Just, and make sure you're sun protecting, and that will take you so far. If you want to be a little extra, like I'm a little extra, I do a tretinoin at night, which is a retinoid, or you could do an over-the-counter retinol. I'm a big fan of these. It's very cost effective and affordable. It doesn't work like magic overnight, but if you stick with it, if you're consistent, you will see amazing results. It's one of the most powerful collagen boosters that we have. The problem is, if you guys have ever used it, it's irritating to the skin.
Yeah.
And it takes a while. So I don't use it every night. When I was younger, I could use it every night without a moisturizer. And now the thought of doing that is terrifying. So now every night I put a moisturizer on, and I would say 4 to 5 nights a week, I'll put on my tretinoin with that. And that seems to work well for me. And if I notice I'm a little extra dry in the morning, I might skip that area or skip it the next night.
So is that like the same as Altrina? Is Altrina a version of that?
So I don't know Altrina.
Oh, really? Okay. It's like, I think it's a retinol, just it has a little moisture in it.
Yeah, I would just see if it's a retinoid. And that probably is.
Okay. Because it's supposed to have that little moisture in it to help with the skin dryness. But even I find that my skin is suddenly so much drier.
Totally. Mine as well. And that's a big thing. As we lose estrogen helps keep our skin barrier intact, helps hold in moisture. And so we start to lose that. And your skin will get drier. And if you have dry skin to begin with, it can be, a lot more severe. So, thankfully you all live in kind of more humid climates, right? But even where I am, it can get somewhat cold, but you may want to consider getting a humidifier to help, and then just lathering up with a moisturizer. I find sometimes throughout the day I have to put moisturizer on, and that's okay. And just, I will use a thicker one. You could even, if you truly have very, very dry skin, use something like Vaseline, Aquaphor, CeraVe, healing ointment, something like
Aquaphor,
that.
I love.
You don't have to put it on your whole face at night, but for some people who are really, really dry, they may need to do that. I think the kids call that slugging nowadays.
My kids are all over using Vaseline. Like, I think once you have kids, that I was telling Colette this, that have gone through like an acne journey, like my kids are obsessed with skincare in a way that I am not. Yeah. And my son has a more elaborate skincare routine than I do.
My son too.
I'm like, what is that?
So let me ask you this about sunblock and stuff, because I wish I had been on this bandwagon earlier. They say, I think something like you get most of your sun damage before a certain age when you're out playing. I don't even know if that's true anymore now with our digital generations, but I used to be that kid who went to the dermatology medical meetings, and all the kids, we'd all be out with like reflectors and baby oil, and I'd have bubbles. I mean, bad. So I'm lucky it's not worse, but now I wear sunblock every day. I'm curious though. I use the Elta MD one. I love that. Yeah. I put it on every morning before I put on my makeup. But what about reapplying during the day? Do you do that? Because doesn't sunblock wear off in like 90 minutes or something? Or is that not true?
Not that fast, but we do say if you are outside, you should reapply it every 2 hours. If you're sweating or swimming, like if I'm at the beach, then I will reapply. Here's the thing. Dermatologists aren't great at reapplying. It's tricky, right? And I don't reapply when I am indoors all day. But as the summer, approaches, the days get longer. If I leave my office and I know I'm going to go outside and take a walk or go to the playground with my kids or be outdoors, then I will reapply on areas that are exposed. My other favorite thing, because I don't love wearing a lot of stuff on my skin, is I will have a hat with me. And I just don't care if it looks cool or not. I personally think it looks cool, but I just have a hat with me because then I don't have to worry about, did I reapply? Did I rub it all in? Did it get my part? People, I'm not going to put sunscreen in my hair, right? So I have a hat with me, and I think they're really cute sun protective clothing out there. And one of my favorite is there's like a little shawl kind of thing I can get. And so if I know I'm going to be somewhere outside and I've got a tank top on, I will just like it's super easy to throw in your purse, and I'll just kind of like drape it over my shoulders if I know I'm gonna be exposed. So I personally love using clothing to also help protect me from the sun instead of just relying on sunscreen. But it is tricky. I hear this a lot with women, like if you've got your makeup done and you don't necessarily want to mess it all up. And I hear you. So I would just say either stay in the shade, get a hat. But if you're at the beach or you're at a sporting event or something like that, it is important to reapply. I think that's where people get burned because they're good in the beginning and then it just kind of forget.
Yes. So I love how you said that there are certain things that you do that are impactful. And I want to know, like, what are the things, and of course I know it's different for everybody, but like, what are the things that really move the needle in like making you look younger, that done, in a thoughtful way, really like change the game?
Well, so talking about skin, because I really think, and I know you're a dermatologist, we want to focus on the skin stuff, but taking care of your body makes such a difference with your skin. People forget your skin is an organ and it really is almost like a reflection or a mirror to what's going on inside. So if you are staying up all night, you're not sleeping, you're drinking a lot, you're smoking, you're stressed out all the time, your skin is going to reflect that. So we don't give that enough attention. So focusing on, I'll say skin health is whole body health. So before rushing out to buy more products, do more procedures, right, is take a look at your life and your health in general. I think makes a huge impact on your skin. But what about like skin care and all that? I would say, again, not to be a broken record, but sun protection. I had never done a laser procedure on my face until about this year. And I just kind of did it for fun at a conference. And I've done that. And I've consistently used a retinoid since I was probably in my late 20s.
Wow.
And just by doing that, which cost comparatively nothing. And a little Botox. Like I started doing Botox in my mid 30s, couple times a year, a little bit of Botox. That to me, I think has been the most impactful. And then now in my 40s, I've done a few vials of Sculptra, and I am a big fan of Sculptra. It builds your own collagen. It's very natural looking. I know my collagen is going to drop, about 30% within the first 5 years after menopause. And even after mid-20s, your collagen is going down. So I think it's a good way to sort of collagen bank. Now, not everyone needs this. Some people have naturally fuller faces, and that may not be what they need. They may have more scarring from acne when they were a kid. And so I would say for someone like that, something impactful for them would be a laser or something to try to help address that scarring and make their complexion or the texture more uniform. For someone who has a lot of pigmentary issues, maybe a lot of sunspots from being outdoors, or they get a lot of hyperpigmentation, so their skin is not a nice uniform color. Addressing that would be more impactful for them. So it's going to vary for everyone, but I think universally, if you just sun protect and use a retinoid, then you're way ahead of the rest.
And just for people who don't really know, like, can you get a retinoid over the counter, or does it have to be prescribed?
So a retinol is over the counter, and those tend to be a little gentler. They're a little bit weaker. They're not as strong. It's not standardized as much, like the prescriptions where I know what strength you're getting. But you can certainly start with that. I like the prescription strengths, and you can start at the lowest and then work your way up, or stay at the lowest. And I think the key for women our age is to use it with a moisturizer and to just use a tiny pee.
Yeah.
Okay. I think people think it's a like a lotion, and you don't need to rub it like that. And then my other tip is, I wish I had done this since I was in my 20s, is to include your neck when you're putting it on. We sort of think our skincare stops at our jawline, right? So do your neck, do the tops of your hands. That's an area that gets a lot of sun.
That's a great idea. Why am I not doing my stuff on my neck when my neck is the worst? Okay, while we're on that, can we talk about, is there anything that can be done for this awful, like I am so banded. Is there anything for that?
Are your bands going more horizontal or vertical?
I think they're more horizontal.
Horizontal.
Yeah.
The tech neck.
Yeah.
So if they were vertical, those are your platysmal bands, which is the muscle of our neck. And those can be addressed very nicely with Botox or Dysport, things like that. The horizontal ones, first of all, even kids have this, right? I'll even look at children and they have these horizontal necklines. So don't think, we can get rid of them totally.
Right.
And we are bending our necks a lot, right? Looking at our phone, looking at the computer keyboard and all that. I would say helpful things, again, nothing's a quick fix necessarily, but using your retinoid on your neck can be helpful. Putting in some filler can be helpful in the neck.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Or hyaluronic acid filler, Radiesse or Sculpture. Those can work nicely. And then I love lasers that can help build your collagen. So doing a laser that is going a little bit deeper to help stimulate the collagen. Some people have great results with radiofrequency microneedling. People are trying, right? And it's not like there's a one, because trust me, if there was, I would have done it. But it kind of just depends at what kind of neck you have, if you need more volume. And then really a neck lift. Sometimes there's just a good bit of skin. And if you were like, I want this, and you keep pulling your neck back.
I'm going to have to do this at some point, because this is actually the thing that bothers me the most is that my face has sunk a little, like right here. And like you said, I do feel 25 inside, and then I'll catch a glimpse of myself on something. I'm like, who's that old lady? Like,
I
that's not
know.
me.
Yeah.
No, I know. I'll see my mom and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am turning into my mother.
My mom, I was telling Colette, my mom did a neck lift and a bleph, when she was like 54. And it bought her like 15 years facially. Yeah. It just looked, I wish I could post the pictures with her without her wanting to kill me, but they were just like, it was so good.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think sometimes people get real nervous about surgery. Yeah. But sometimes that is, I feel like you can spin your wheels and try all these things and really just cut the skin out if it really, really bothers you. And I love a blepharoplasty. I think that's an eyelid lift or tuck. It's a great way to open the eyes. If a lot of times people, typically a little bit older than us, 60s, 70s, they have to use their forehead to hold their eyes, their eyelids up. And so by the end of the day, they just feel exhausted and heavy. And really a fairly simple procedure for someone who knows what they're doing. It's to just remove that skin so they don't have to, hold their eyebrows up just to see.
It's a great thing. My aunt did that with the eyelids in her maybe mid to late 60s, I want to say. And it made a huge difference. And she looks her age, but she just looks great for her age. Right. She looks really vital and alive and not obviously plastic surgeried.
Right.
So, okay. So what I'm getting so far, and this is comforting to hear again from you, that really, if we're doing a good cleansing our skin, wearing sunscreen, and maybe considering adding a retinoid to your routine, that can work really, really well. And you don't have to go crazy spending a fortune necessarily with a million procedures. Although a little Botox can help, depending on I've been doing Botox since my mid 30s too, in my forehead. It's not working as well in a way now. Like I either feel so frozen that I look weird, or it's hard to get
Your
the
brows
lines
up.
to go. Yeah, my
Yeah.
brows sink. So it's becoming more challenging. And I don't know. I think there are probably other women listening like me who wonder, am I going to be Botoxing my forehead till I'm 80? Like, is this at some point, am I giving up or am I just going to keep
Yeah.
going? You know?
But yeah, foreheads are tricky. In fact, a lot of my more mature patients, I don't treat their forehead because, again, they're using their forehead to hold their eyelids up. And sometimes what they really need is a brow lift to just their brows have fallen. They just need those placed a little bit higher. But a lot of times you can still treat the scowl lines, those 11s. Pretty much until you're 100 or whatever, if you really want. But I do start to back off on the forehead a little bit because it does can either lead to a heavy brow and can make it hard to see. They feel like their eyes don't open as well. So it does get tricky. But I do think by doing it early, you have staved off developing those etched in lines, which will serve you well down the road.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know.
What about estrogen on the skin?
Yeah.
Like we've been hearing about that lately, and I don't know what to make of. Have you seen that be impactful?
Yes, and I've been prescribing it a lot more. So I didn't realize this, but actually estrogen was in skincare back in the 40s, before the FDA and before regulations. Yes, and people loved it. But then once the FDA was formed, and I don't know the exact details why, but it stopped being put in there. And I think for a while, women have been using their vaginal estrogen cream on their face, kind of off-label.
Oh, yeah. They said that at the menopause conference we went to. They said put it on your face.
I missed that part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people have been, women have been kind of figuring this out. Like, well, hey, if it helps the skin there, which we know it's very helpful there, it prevents UTIs, it helps with dryness and pain. And so women knew that, oh, well, let me try it on my face. I think the issue was the formulation wasn't necessarily that desirable to apply on the face. And also, I don't know if people necessarily wanted their, vaginal cream sitting right on the counter next to their toothbrush. I don't know. Maybe they didn't care. But now I think with this new push to kind of recognize menopause as a whole season in life and not just something to just ignore and forget about women. Now companies have formulated more elegant products with estriol to apply on the skin. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of this and more studies showing the impact, but we know it works for the vaginal skin. So I think it's a great option. And I'll tell my patients when I prescribe it to them to use it like a moisturizer, that they can use it and it can help with dryness. So that's something to try too.
So you could use that with your retinoid?
Yeah.
Like instead of your moisturizer that you use.
Yeah.
And so what do you like to prescribe for an estriol? I'm getting some today.
I use a compounding company called Skin Medicinal, and they have an estriol cream, and
Really?
I got it to try myself, and it feels great. It's light. It does seem like a moisturizer. So that's what I tell my patients, to use that in place of their moisturizer.
Okay, oh my God, I want some.
Yes. Let's get some right away.
Yeah.
But I also like that you're pointing to how important it is to take care of your whole body, and that the skin is an organ, and it's not just about procedures and creams. And it really is about sleeping, hydrating, eating well. How much does sleep affect the skin? I would imagine more than we think, right?
Totally. And, it's taken me 40 years to figure this out, where I feel like our culture was, and especially in medicine, it's like, sleeping's for the weak, and, you need to pride yourself on not sleeping. And then I think I hit 40 and I was like, I need to sleep. Like, I cannot stay up all night. And now that I have I don't sleep. Probably a sleep expert would tell me I need to sleep more, which is fair enough, but I'm working on it. But just getting a consistent schedule to get about 6.5 hours a night for me makes me feel amazing. Now, ideally, I probably should be getting 7.5, right? I recognize that, but just being on a consistent schedule has been helpful, not just for my skin, but for everything. Yeah. I mean, think about when you were maybe in college or we had newborns, right? And you're up all night. Did you look good when you looked in the mirror? No, like you accentuated dark circles under your eyes. You might have more like puffiness and swelling, and then you don't eat right when you're tired, and you're not going to go exercise. So all these things have downstream effects. So sleeping is important. It's a time for our body, including our skin, to regenerate and to have good blood flow and our skin cells to turn over. So it's so important, and I do think it's great. I feel like people are now, even like big CEOs and people are promoting sleep and letting people know it's not a sign of weakness. It's actually critical.
Right. I know. I'm so glad too. I've never been a good sleeper and I take it so seriously now. So I'm glad to hear you say that. And also that you're speaking to these things that really matter for the skin. And there are some things that people believe that don't matter. Are there any myths that you just giggle about as a dermatologist or that you could debunk for our listeners?
Gosh, I feel like there's always something. And I feel like with social media, it's almost like the more outrageous to get the more views, and it's kind of crazy. One that doesn't make me giggle, it actually really makes me cry, is this whole thing of sunscreen causes cancer, and that, parents I hear who don't put sunscreen on their kids and their kids are burning. I mean, that really breaks my heart.
Yeah.
Because I see the patients when they're older with the skin cancers, and they all tell me, I wish I had known.
Yeah.
I wish I could go back. So that to me, I wish we didn't have that. And I wish we didn't have celebrities promoting that, or people with large platforms. I think just following a lot of these TikTok trends, it's always something new, right? Flaxseed oil, it can work instead of Botox, or taping your face instead of Botox, or, beef tallow, or all these different things. And it's like, or a lot of the DIY stuff at home. It's like there's stuff we know that works, that's formulated just for your skin, and it's been tested and tried and true. You don't need to reinvent it and make it in your own kitchen. That just because you made it in your kitchen doesn't mean it's better, right? I think that concept that natural is always better, but something made very elegantly and cleanly and pulling out just the important ingredients and actives in a lab is not a bad thing just because it was created in a lab. It's not reasonable to think we're going to all just rub oranges on our face for vitamin C serum, right? So I think I wish people would just trust the experts with skin health and not just follow whatever they see on social media or someone trying to get views or clicks or likes. And just also, it's hard to not be persuaded, like, ooh, maybe I need that product. Oh, I've never heard of that. Maybe I do need that. It's very tempting to want to stray from what you use and find the next shiny object, but really consistency is key. And I joke that I've used the same cleanser. It's the Dove Beauty Bar. I've used it for decades.
There we go.
And sometimes I'll go to a conference or something, I'm like, I'm going to try a foaming face wash or something. And I always just go back to my Dove because it's easy and it works. And so why do I need to complicate it with a separate one for my face and body and all that? So if it's working for you, stay with it.
Yeah, and another thing that like Colette and I were talking about is that, how much of good skin is these preventable things and these routines that we do, and how much of it is just the genetic lottery?
Well, genetics does play a role for sure. But I would also say like your epigenetics, right? Like what's actually turned on. And we can control a lot more than we think. So yes, if you are born with, eczema or certain conditions, then that is going to be, your skin's going to be different than someone who doesn't have those struggles, right? To me, it's more just your overall like look and appearance and bone structure and all that I think play a role, but you can still do so much. So you may have gotten your acne from your dad or or whatever, your baldness, but there's still so much you can do. And so I don't think I would just say, oh, well, I throw my hands up. I can't do anything about it.
That's a great way to put it. So what kind of sunblock do you like to use? I'm just curious because you obviously have very beautiful skin.
Oh, well, thank you. I like Elta MD. I think it's a great price point. I like to put it on my face. It's very elegant. I love the spray because it's a mineral spray, but it's so light, and it works great for like spraying on my kids and rubbing them down real fast. They really like the stick sunscreen. So I've got a 11 and 10-year-old. So I think Neutrogena has a stick sunscreen. They use that very obligingly. And that's another thing I would just say for people who have kids listening, and maybe your kids are older, but I would say just try to model the behavior you want them to have. My kids don't fight me about wearing hats because that's just what we've been doing since they were babies, and they see mom puts her hat on, they put their hat on. Rash guards, like that's just what we do when we're outside at the beach and the pool. We put our rash guards on. So I think that's helpful. But for sunscreen, I'll tell people there's no magic sunscreen. SPF 30 or higher, broad spectrum. But the most important thing is you like the way it feels. I also like La Roche-Posay. I tend to have more oily skin, and I don't like to feel like I have something heavy or sticky on my face. So I like the ones that you have to shake and they're super light.
Yeah.
On my body, I'm less particular, but there's so many. I mean, again, I use sunscreen. If it's not Elta MD, it's from the drugstore. So that's what I do.
Yeah, that's great. And how important do you think it is that the sunscreen has titanium or zinc in it?
So if you are worried about chemical sunscreens, then stick with a mineral-based sunscreen like zinc or titanium. There have been some studies that concern people where they saw that the chemical sunscreens were absorbed by the bloodstream, and so they were measured in the bloodstream after use, which we know things are absorbed through our skin. So that's not really surprising. The study didn't say there was any harm from that or any negative side effects from that whatsoever. But if you are concerned about that, then sure, stick with the mineral based sunscreen. That's totally fine. The problem with those sometimes is that they're not quite as elegant. If you have darker skin, sometimes they can leave more of a white chalky cast. So don't be scared of chemical sunscreens. There's been no studies showing human harm and all that. But again, also don't think of sun protection as stopping at your sunscreen, right? Throw on a hat, wear sunglasses, throw on something to cover the tops of your arms if you're on a boat or paddleboarding, so you're not just like roasting like a rotisserie chicken.
Yeah. I mean, Florida really has made me, what you said is so true. You can see the difference in colder climates versus people who live here, and the sun is just so strong and relentless all the time.
Yeah.
And, as we get older and I don't even feel good when the sun's beaming on me unless I feel like I have something solid on.
I am right there. Yes.
Yeah.
Or even just the side of your face from the driving in the car. Like the one side of my face is little darker.
The left side. And I, the hat, the baseball cap, like I will frequently see in guys, this part of their face, sort of the mid part of their face, will be nice and not a lot of sun damage, but all the sides have a lot of sun damage from, I can see like where the baseball cap shaded it. So yeah, just think if you had just shaded all of it.
Right. And you're right. It's such a great point. Look at your stomach or, my kind of lower back where the skin has had so much less exposure unless you're somebody who works outside every day in a bathing suit. It's dramatically different.
Right. Or even the top, like your arms, like the top of your arm, flip it. If they're different colors, then
mine are dramatically different colors. And I do have a lot of melasma now. It's really, it's a bummer.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I should say, Colette. Some people, one thing to think about with the estriol cream is there have been some anecdotal reports that it could worsen melasma. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. I think it's still worth trying it or maybe trying an area to see, but just for the listeners to know about that.
Okay, that's great to know. And good to know that you don't have any opposition to putting the estrogen cream on your face. Because I was wondering, is that even true? Is that even good?
Yeah.
No. And do your neck too. Neck,
Yes.
top of your hands, upper chest. So
Yes, I'm going to put my
We're
retinoid
gonna
on
take
my
a bath
neck
in it.
tonight too. Yes. But it's great advice too to use a small amount because I'll get
Yes.
the dryness, particularly like here, in the creases, especially where it peels, and
Yeah.
it's so many, the face is dry, but you don't want wrinkles. So there's so many things to think about.
Yeah. And I would say anyone trying, don't give up, play around with it. And I think of it, I like to treat to a little bit of peeling, just a smidge, because then I'm like, okay, it's doing what it's supposed to.
Yeah. And anything you recommend to our listeners to ask their dermatologist or go into their dermatologist specifically saying that they might not think of?
I think if you've had a lot of sun damage and you're in your 40s plus and you have never had, or really if you've never had a skin check, get in and have a skin check because no matter what color you are, or really if you think you've had a lot of sun or not, right? If you are in your 40s, you've seen some sun, let them look you over head to toe, scalp to bottoms of your feet, and they can help you know what to look for. I think a lot of people know what to look for with melanomas, which are the dark spots, but they don't know about the much more common basal cell carcinomas and squamous cell carcinomas, which can happen starting in this phase of life. And then they can also help guide you on what skincare regimen you should be doing and any potential treatments or lasers or devices that you might be interested in. They can kind of go over all that with you. But I would say if you've never had a skin check, that would be a great opportunity to go. And sometimes people think these brown spots on their skin are sunspot or, like a brown spot for a laser, and it could be a melanoma. So again, just getting an expert's eyes on your skin first can, I think, be really helpful.
And for the average person, once a year, like an all over body mole check kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah, I would say once a year, but they'll let you know if you're someone who's had a lot of sun damage, maybe have a lot of moles, maybe a family history of melanoma. They may want to see you twice a year.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely getting to the point where I know so many people who are having to have something removed or have a skin cancer. And I think maybe especially being in Florida, it just seems so... I'll never forget the first dermatology appointment I went to here, the entire waiting room. And that doctor that I used to see was a Mohs surgeon. I mean, the entire waiting room, it looked like, purgatory because everybody was just old and had like the bandages on their nose. I was like, shit, this is
I tell my younger patients, like, you're going to sit in my waiting room and think, I don't belong here. One of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
That was me in my 20s. But it's, think about that for our listeners who are younger. I mean, wear the sunscreen every day. If I could go back in time, that is the one thing I would do. And a hat. Yeah. Protect yourself when you don't think you need to, because you'll be really glad later.
Yeah, they say if you want beautiful skin in your 50s, wear sunscreen or sun protecting your 20s.
Yeah,
I'm going to tell my daughters this. My daughters are both in their 20s. I'm going to be telling them this again after this recording. Well, Dr. Mina, thank you so much. Can you share with our listeners how they can find you and anything else you'd like to promote in particular?
Yeah, well, this was a lot of fun, ladies. I'm so glad we got to chat today. I actually have a podcast called The Skin Real, REAL. So if you are curious about certain skin things, procedures, devices, I really just kind of cover topics that I get asked about all the time. And I'm at Dr. Mina Skin on all the social media platforms, YouTube, all that good stuff. And actually, this is a fun quiz. If you want to know where, are you more of a Laura? Are you more of a Colette or me? You can take a fun quiz to find your skin style at theskinreal.com/style.
Great. Cool. And we'll put all that in the show notes. I'm going to take the quiz. Yeah, I want to find out if I'm a Colette or
I think I know what end of the spectrum I'm on, but I'll take
But
it.
I love that kind of stuff. That's great. So, and your podcast is great. So I think our listeners would really enjoy that as well.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening today. We hope you got some insights from our couch. If you like what you heard, and we hope that you did, don't forget to subscribe and share with a friend and write a review. Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.